Hello, everyone. Welcome to Psychology and Spirituality, a bridge to better life discussion. During our weekly episodes, we explore the intersection of spirituality and psychology, and as a result, we capture timeless wisdom contained in both fields. I would like to say welcome all of you who are here today, and I'm really excited to have you here with me today as Anne and I and Sinclair and I will dive into a topic that is not so easy, right? And it
Indeed.
touches, yes, and it touches the heart, I believe, of modern existence, which is the idea of the overwhelming pressures of contemporary life and the existential crisis that many of us, I would say probably most of us, are facing today. But Anne, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you, Marcia.
Do you have any thoughts that you want to bring to us before we talk?
No, well, I just think like existential crisis. I mean, this is a difficult topic, but it is a
Mhm,
topic that is present in everybody's lives, whether
mhm.
they recognize it or not with that name.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. So, to me, there's a question that comes to mind around this topic, right? And I'd love to hear from you, maybe. And have you ever felt like something just doesn't feel quite right, no matter how much, say, success, material, professional, familial success you achieve, or even how much you are plugged right into the world around you? And what I mean by that is you are an influencer, you have a lot of power. Have you ever felt like that, Ed?
Not that I have a lot of power or that I'm an influencer, but I think that sometimes, well, I would say that society, our culture at the moment, our Western culture, is
Mm,
very noisy. And
yes, yes.
that sometimes I get caught up in the noise as well, and I don't
Mhm,
hear myself anymore. I lose,
yes.
and I was reading Joanna de Angelis, and she uses an interesting description. She says we might become like robots, and with
Yes.
all the advent of AI and everything like that, it's really important that we reconnect with our humanness of who are we, why are we
Yeah.
here, what are we
Yeah.
doing here, are
Yeah.
we on the right pathway or not, and what makes us happy? What makes us tick, as they say.
Yeah.
These are really useful things, and sometimes in the noise we lose track of that.
Yeah, and it's funny. I've been pondering the whole idea of what makes us human, and for the longest time, at least me, and we talked about what makes us human is our intelligence, right? And then, boom, we are faced with this concept that maybe 20 years ago was just a pipe dream, but now it is impacting just about every part of our lives, from
Mm.
our phone to our smart houses, et cetera, which is the notion of artificial intelligence, as you mentioned. And now we start, at least I do start to see that it's really not about intelligence around facts, events, data points, but it's really all about that emotional intelligence that Gardner introduced to us, say 1980s, I think mid
Mm.
1980s, when he brought to us the concept of emotional intelligence, meaning our feelings, our emotions, right? The deeper aspect of our humanity.
Yeah, it's like Joanna de Angelis was saying that exactly, and say we can understand things with our brain, if you like, with our
Mm.
intellectual mind, but we can also understand things with our heart.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
not my description, but when somebody says, when you look at a sunset, when you look at a new baby, when you look at a starry night, and you go, ah, what are you doing? You are recognizing
yeah,
creation, nature, the divinity in everything. And you're not recognizing that with your intellectual mind. You're recognizing that through your heart. And
Yeah.
again, our modern society, we have overemphasized the importance of the rational brain and mind to create things, to create machines, to create things, to be the engineers of the industrial revolution going forwards that affected
Yeah.
everything in our society. And we disconnected a bit from our heart as a less important part, allegedly, which is
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, for us to be complete human beings, we need to integrate all our parts. We are not just the intellectual knowledge, we are also our heart. We are also our shadows. We are also the things we don't know about ourselves. We are lots of things, and we need to bring it all together to be that complete human being. So
With
it's
love, right? With love.
with
It's,
love.
I
Exactly.
love what you said. The heart, the rational side, but the unconscious, but also the shadow. With love. Go ahead, Dan.
It's like, the spirits, when they talk about progressing, it's like if you were a bird with two wings. Like one time you're flying with one wing, and then with another, you can't. You need both wings to fly.
Absolutely.
One might
Absolutely.
be a little bit sort of more developed because you've been looking at it more, sort of giving it more energy, or more attention, but you need both to fly. So that's just a symbol, if you like. But
Yeah.
thinking that no part of us is less important, but we have been focusing on different parts for different reasons, and it's all good. It's just what it is. So, but not forgetting the
Yeah.
the other parts of ourselves.
And I keep thinking, not modernity or postmodernity, but really the zeitgeist of today, right? This past 20 years. So in the third millennium, if you will, actually the second millennium, but the 21st century, right?
Yeah.
Um, we really have been pushed into the notion of data points and intelligence. So the wing of rational thoughts and the pioneering thought, no longer pioneering as we may think about it, the Portuguese or the Spaniards going to or the British finding places that were unknown in the 1500s, 1600s, right? Pioneering, but pioneering the aspects of technology and pioneering the rational thoughts and rational constructs. And we're coming to a point that says it's good, but there's a whole world that we're not yet discovering, and that the whole world we could say here it's our humanity. But I wanted to pivot maybe our discussion here, right? Because when we think about it, we find ourselves in with this notion, this disconnectedness that you mentioned. We come to this notion of perhaps a sense of emptiness, right? Or a sense of confusion or lack of direction. And the interesting thing here, Anne, is that the truth, the real truth is we've never been in a planet as populated as we are right now, right? We're busting at the seams. We are not alone. If you ever feel alone, you can just turn on whatever the device that you may want, and boom, you get connected. But I thought maybe we could explore together in the next few minutes the importance, perhaps, to navigate through the so-called crisis, the existential crisis that is defining postmodern world. And by postmodern world, we're talking about 1900s, right, and to now, because over the past century, um, and we've seen so many amazing, incredible advancements. In my flights of fancy, I keep thinking if we were to go back in time in a little machine, and we would bring somebody from, oh, I don't know, 1920, right, and go back maybe not even 20 years ago, maybe, well, 30 years, and put that person to say, hey, I'm going to fax you the photo of a bird. and I put a phone, right, that was in the early 1920s, was just starting to be brought up as a technology. And there comes a fax image of a bird. It just the thought about it is mind-boggling. Well, this is back then, but all this um, past 100 years, there's so much advancements in sociology, technology, science overall. And the more those advancements came to us, the more we have expanded our understanding of the world. And it goes back to that magic word, right? The connection that exists in all of us. If we think about it, and I'm sorry if I'm talking too much, but I'm thinking here that let's just go back pre 2020 with the COVID-19 pandemic, and immediately after that, or during the pandemic, how that event spearheaded the ease and the ability, right, the effectiveness of communication and leveraging the virtual capabilities for just about everything. We're talking about education for children, all the way to adult education, professional context, professional world, in overall human connections with, I can call it, this is not to talk about brands, but Google Talk, Zoom meetings, Cisco web, whatever. There's so many WebEx, right? There's so many channels of communications today that it is dizzying because we need to now say, I need to talk to you via blah, blah, blah. But what's unfortunate here, Anne, is that despite all these achievements, we are still today, and Johnny the Angels brings to us a commentary to that, right? When she brings up the notion of existential crisis, we're still today dealing with the aftermath of two world wars and the existential weight of living in this now society. And you mentioned Western society, right? But I could say mostly Western society, but it's really all of it. And despite all of it, we are increasingly truly disconnected. And as I'm saying this to you, if you allow me, and I'm thinking of the 2023 movie Oppenheimer, right? It was directed by Christopher Nolan, and it was about the physicist, right, who played the main role in developing the atomic bomb during the Manhattan Project. And the film really delves into Oppenheimer's life from his early years as a scientist to all the way to the leadership of the project. And later on, he had a pivotal role from a moral, political perspective, and really dealing with the personal consequences of creating what it was, weapon of mass destruction. And the movie isn't just about this historical event or historic recounting of the events. It explored the themes of scientific discovery, the ethics, right, of technological advancements, and in his case, the weight of responsibility for being the person through which it materialized. And I just love it. I love it how it portrayed Oppenheimer as both brilliant but conflicted individual. And he grappled throughout the movie, of course. I did not know him, but he grappled throughout the movie about this devastating power of the bomb that he helped create. And throughout the movie, he he discussed or dealt or led to questions about what is his role and how his role is forever impacting humanity. So the overarching, and I'm going to stop here, but the overarching message of Oppenheimer could be seen as perhaps what we're talking here, which is a reflection of the dual nature of scientific progress, right? And while it can bring tremendous advancements for society, it can also, in that case, unleash forces that are uncontrollable and, in a lot of cases, even ethically and morally ambiguous. So it's important for us to think about it, because if we remember the horrors of Hiroshima, right, the event that, in my opinion, forever changed the world. Right, to date, we're facing with political turmoil. The first thought that comes to a lot of people is, who's the person with access to the button to kill us all, right? So politically it impacted, but spiritually, emotionally, I believe those, Hiroshima as the end result of the Manhattan Project, but that what happened then really, really impacted and left us perhaps without a sense of purpose. So I just wanted to know, can we perhaps talk about, if you have any thoughts about how the rapid advancements in science and technology can come, or often comes, at the expense of this deep connection, human connection, and spiritual grounding that we're talking about earlier.
Well, I think that you can look at it like all scientific developments. They can be used for good or for evil.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about, the Nobel Prize installed by the person who invented TNT, which was a blessing in
Yeah,
terms of engineering and building roads, but then
yeah,
became a horror of making bombs. Anything can be used both ways. In medicine, fentanyl is a fabulous anesthetic
yes.
for
Mm-hmm.
surgery, but yet it's devastating lives across the streets of many big cities. So we always have both sides to it. The problem
Mm-hmm.
is not with the product of science. The problem is with the human being.
Mm-hmm.
What is motivating us? And here comes in the existential crisis. Because when you think of what is an existential crisis, it is a moment when we stop and reflect and wonder, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Are we going in the right direction? Which
Mm-hmm.
sounds all very philosophical and deep, and thinking that's not me. But you can have an existential crisis, most people do, when they're teenagers, adolescents.
Mm-hmm.
You question your life, and you question your parents and your education, and where are you going and why are you doing it? What's everybody else doing? When you do it, when you get to college, when you graduate, when you get married, when you get divorced, when you change your careers, when you're
Yeah.
40 or when you're 60, when you retire. Many times in life, although it might not come across like that, you do stop and think, is this it? Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I going in the right direction? Am I happy? Am I
Mm-hmm.
healthy?
Yeah.
And we often we do it in our own the different ways, and so it is something that we do. And why do we do it? Because we have this inbuilt compass, if you like, that helps us
Yes.
stop and reflect. Where are we going? What are we
Mm-hmm.
doing? Because our life on earth, it's all depends of what perspective you take.
Mm-hmm.
If you think, oh, this is it, one life, and then you die, and then that's it, that would motivate you in one direction. But if you think of yourself as an eternal being who has many lives, many opportunities, and that you go developing bit by bit, life by life, then
Mm-hmm.
that might give you motivation in a different way. So we need to, you can't impose philosophies, uh, ideologies, meanings of life. People can read about them, you can suggest them, but each one will have to make up their own minds, because we are all individual spirits, and we are all motivated and molded by the
Mm-hmm.
life we've had, the parents, the culture, what's happened to us, what we've achieved, what we haven't achieved. All these things go molding us, and
Mm-hmm.
then they will change the way we perceive things. So we can be inspired by reading, seeing movies, reading stories of people's lives and say, oh,
Hmm.
I could do that, I could change this, or we can find encouragement, motivation, but you can't impose it on somebody else. So we need to like kind of stop, reel it back, and come back to ourselves,
I
because
love it. Yeah.
it's made up of each one of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No, I love it. Yeah. The idea, let's just, it is too much, right? It's too noisy. Let's just stop.
yeah,
And I would even say,
just
let's
come back to
breathe.
ourselves.
Yeah, let's go back to what is really important,
And
what we need to do with our lives, and
exactly.
embrace that pioneering spirit that has led to discoveries, in beautiful discoveries, by the way, in technology. But let's maybe embrace that sense of wonder, but with that sense also that we are not alone, right? We are connected, we are
Mm.
interconnected more than we ever uh, can think about, materially and spiritually speaking. But let us just breathe and
and and also,
look, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
not only
Hmm.
connected to one another, which is really important, and maybe we should talk a little bit more about that, but
Hmm.
also connected to nature.
Yes, yes,
We're
yes.
all part of it. And people, I know people like say on a journey of cancer treatment or other disease, people say, oh, I walked in the forest, I was in nature, I went to the
Hmm.
sea, it made me feel so much better. And just reconnecting that we are part of nature.
Hmm.
And I like to think of it, it's sometimes we feel oppressed by our own self-importance. And when we put ourselves in our place, we feel quite liberated,
Hmm.
because then we are not the center of the universe.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
are we are a component of the universe. We are all important components of the universe, but we're all components of the universe. We're not the center of it.
Yeah,
And we
it's very interesting that you say that, because I believe Joanna DeAngelis brings a lot of uh, content in several of her books about that, right?
mm,
And if we think about it, that self-centered, right? I am. The world revolves around me. No, it doesn't. But as a baby, and we reflect that even in adult lives, that that very primitive or immature, childish way of looking at life, we do the same. The world is all about me. Don't worry about the other. It's all about me, how I think, how I feel, how I want more. And I think it's quite interesting that from a Joanna DeAngelis perspective, she discusses that in interesting enough, when she says this postmodern world, and she references back to 1900s, and now the 2000s, right? It's the society that is disconnecting from the ego self access, right? We are not aware of the self with a capital S, which is, again, you mentioned that to us a minute ago, which is that immortal component of ourselves, the spiritual, the soul, that it really um, expresses who we are, not the persona, which is ephemeral. It is actually quite, right, a snap of a finger in relative terms, that this that we feel is the most important in the most central aspect of our reality. It's just done. Let's go to the
mm,
next one. So I think it's interesting what you're saying. But you mentioned something interesting with I don't know if you want to go back to it, but with cancer patients, for example, just by going to nature, there is that feeling of belonging, of being part of the context of we're all connected, gets us to feel better.
yeah, I mean, I'm not advocating people shouldn't take their medication, their
Mhm.
treatments as prescribed and agreed, but as an additional is to remember, this is the
Mhm.
existential crisis coming, to
Mhm.
remember who we are, why we're
Mhm.
here, and even
Mhm.
what might be the role of a disease in my life.
Mm-hmm.
People say it's a horrible thing. No, don't want to, it can't have any role. No, but everything in the universe has a role that it plays. And if we don't pay attention to it, and then it just comes up again. So until we
Mm-hmm.
are ready to look at it and say, what is it teaching me? Why has it come
Yeah.
to me? And having this sense of we might not find the absolute answer, but of inquiring and having curiosity to try to understand and to be okay with actually not having 100% an answer, but thinking that there must be something here for me to learn. Let me just be in it and not to run away from it. It reminds me of when I talk about pain.
Uh-huh.
So we live in a culture nowadays where as soon as you have a pain, you've got a headache. The first
Yeah.
thing, throw
Yeah.
some pills, take it away, get rid of it. I'm working. I can't have a headache,
Yes.
or whatever pain you have. You've got tummy ache. Have something else. Get rid of it. Have no time for it. But if you think about your body is a very wonderful organism, and
Yeah.
when it sends you a message of pain, it's an email it's sending you saying,
Yeah.
"Hello, something's not okay."
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just go delete. You're not paying attention. So then the sense again. So I just do it in a joking kind of way, but it says the pain that your body gives you, it sends you, it's an impulse to tell you something's not okay. So even though you don't want to be the pain, and I'm the first one to take the painkillers as well, don't get me wrong, but
Uh-huh.
thinking, okay, so where's this coming from? Is this something significant or is it just something small? Does this mean that I haven't slept enough, that my glasses are
Sure.
out of prescription?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this more serious? You
Mm-hmm.
need to stop and reflect and take responsibility for it rather than just getting rid of it. And
Yeah.
so in life, if we change our approach to whatever's coming our way and thinking, okay, we can resolve this, but is there something here for me to learn from this?
Well, I have to say something, and this is so silly, and it's quite personal. And but I just you're talking about how the headache or whatever. I have something that's scratching what's going on, and I'm not going to pay attention, right? But what triggered me, if I may, forgive me for saying that, but I just remember I'm married to someone who is, he calls himself a problem solver, right? He's a deeply analytical type of person that deals with at work with very complex problems, and it's up to him to resolve. But in the relationship one to one, sometimes I come to him to talk about it, and right, he's already solving the problem. Or the analogy would be he's the painkiller, let me take away the pain. And
Yeah.
sometimes, as most of us women do, right, all I wanted was to take the moment to verbalize the problem so that I could reflect upon it, take responsibility for it, and perhaps solve it or not, learn from it. But it's just very interesting because on a different note, and I hope he's not here. Listen to me, by the way. But there is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful organization. It goes by the three-letter acronym CVV, which is the basically translate would be Center for Value in Life, V for Vida, life in Portuguese. And it's not just in Brazil, but there are many equivalent to this organization, and it is a network of volunteers that at any given time, with a central number, if you're going through a crisis, right, you can actually call this number, especially if you have suicidal thoughts, and somebody is going to be there. Well, and we do have in America a suicide hotline. I'm sure in the UK you also have many different, and now it's not just a telephone but number, but you can do by text, by email, etc. And there's this enormous number of people trained to to be there to listen. But one of the things that I wanted to bring to you is the fact that for if you ever get trained for, in this case, for the CVV, which is the only one that I was trained, it is so amazing, and because it talks about mental pictures, and I'm doing a square with an imaginary square here. So let's
Yeah.
pretend you call me and you start to say whatever, it doesn't matter, right? It can be, the trigger can be a headache, it can be that you lost your job, the trigger can be that somebody doesn't like you anymore or broke an engagement, whatever, right? But it's a source of pain. It could be that I'm addicted and I don't have money for my fix. It doesn't matter. But one of the things that CVV does is at the minute that you're listening to that person, you have to train yourself to, when you start seeing in that little imaginary box, painting a picture, you have to destroy it immediately. Go away. And you keep talking and we keep painting the picture. Stop it. Because we do that. Our brains, our brains are trained to create a story, a narrative, right? We and those narratives, they unfortunately they are full of our own biases, our own, all of our historical data points. And when I put my hands to the back, it's like I keep thinking not just this day or year or decade, it can be my entire life or past lives, right? It's all rushing in as a new circumstance that somebody is narrating, and I create without even knowing a mental picture, which usually it comes with judgment.
Mm.
So the CVV says that's not the role. You cannot judge the person. You need to listen so that you can help that person unburden the trigger that is leading to such pain that it can lead to a ultimate ultimate impact to their own lives. So I think this is for us maybe a moment for us to realize that what are we doing with ourselves? Are we creating mental pictures based on societal norms, expectations, egoic constructs? Are we doing that based on what our parents expect from us, demand from us? Or are we being perhaps open to be in that box without any mental picture and be there? And like you said, Anne, reflect, go inward and take responsibility, right? Have a response to it, but not an automatically constructed response to whatever it is that we're going through.
Yeah, it's really interesting what you're saying, Marcia, because it's not that easy to
No,
reflect about ourselves
no.
because we have what they call like mechanisms of
Mhm.
defense, which
Yes.
is our a protection mechanism to hide
Yeah.
us from ourselves, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Our ego is so clever, and right, because it creates, and it's not
Yeah,
one or two, but it's quite a long list of ways that we and our ego creates those defense mechanisms to protect, many times protecting from our finding out or betraying ourselves when we say, ah, this is really a mask that you need to get rid of it, right? I love the notion of defense mechanism because it's quite almost the play of you going for therapy, and a therapeutical session is only as effective as you, the patient, betray yourselves, right? When you
mm,
betray yourself, then you start to move on beyond the carefully constructed social mask that we all have to say, no, 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 I'm good, I'm good. But go ahead. I think I interrupted you. My apologies.
No, no, that's okay. I joke. I think it's like sometimes we believe our own PR, you know.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
In
It's
this
so
world,
crazy.
everybody, yeah, it's all about the image, the best click, the this and
Yeah.
it's okay because um, not being judgmental. It's like everything is a phase, and just like when we are growing up and we have a phase of being children or teenagers, and we become not to be caught out, we lie. And
Uh-huh.
it's that famous picture, you know, of the child with the broken cookie jar, nobody else in the kitchen, and the mother says, "Well, who broke the cookie jar?" It's like,
Mommy.
so don't know, you know, it's quite obvious who it is, but we are sometimes like that. We are saying we don't know who broke the cookie jar when it's so obvious to any adult.
And we have the broken glass with us, right? On the bowl, the bowl is right with your hands, little hands. Like, I don't know who did it. I didn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Or the face full of chocolate. I say, I don't know
Yes.
who ate the chocolate. And so sometimes I refer to this in most of my talks because it helps me.
Mhm.
Thinking of ourselves as spiritual beings on a pathway of evolution who are still very close to the beginning of that
Yeah,
journey, still
yeah.
very much like children. And the higher spirits, our guardians and things, being more like the parents, you know, the spirits who are further along the journey,
Yeah.
they have patience and love towards us. And
Uh-huh.
then if we suddenly go, oh my gosh, this is really embarrassing. I'm like a child, you know, with the chocolate on the face. But we need to love ourselves as well and accept that this is just of the phase of evolution in which we find ourselves. This is
Mhm.
characteristic, this behavior in a
Yeah,
child, characteristic. So
yeah.
what we want to do is saying, okay, I have these behaviors, which it's time for me to put a little bit of action into it to change these things. And one
Mhm.
of the things that you need to do to change that is to
Mhm.
have courage, to have
Yes.
moral courage,
Yeah,
and the courage to know that you will still be loved,
yeah,
and and it's okay to make mistakes and to
yeah.
get it wrong, and if sometimes we get it right just by chance, and
Mhm.
it's all part of the journey of the pathway.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you lose the fear, and then you say, okay, maybe if I make a decision, it might impact others. And you talked about Oppenheimer and how his decision impacted so many others.
Mhm.
That is really, really tough when you're
Yeah.
making decisions that impact your family, if you're a parent, or you know, if it impacts a company where you work and all the people who buy that product. You have to think about the consequences of what you do. But
Mhm.
if you're thinking about personal stuff, and let's say you're thinking, okay, for example, say I catch myself, for example, lying about silly things.
Mhm.
If I lie about silly things, do I also lie about bigger things? And if I lie to myself, why is that? Why do I need to lie to myself? Why do I need to pretend? You know, and then you can go unraveling it, not with a sense of chastisement or persecution or judgment, but more with curiosity,
Yes.
with trying to get to understand, where is this coming from? Why is it like this? Let me see, let me see, let me see. And you can, when you start to unravel some of these things, it can be very liberating. Because,
Yes.
like you're saying about societal norms, and we are constrained and forced, if we want to be well adjusted citizens, if you like, we
Mhm.
behave like the herd, you know, we want to do like
Yes.
everybody else. And sometimes we might have to make a decision to behave in what we might think is an ethical way, and it's slightly different to what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Then you need the courage to be slightly different.
I love what you're saying, and I think for all of us here,
Mm.
and it's important to think about what does it mean to have courage, courage to do the ethical way, courage to have curiosity, and I call it you call it unraveling, but I call it this pioneering self-discovery, right? Which
Mm.
is it's gonna unravel. I have to. Uh, have you ever had a fish tank?
Yeah.
And right, so when as kids we had fish tanks and they're beautiful, but every so often you have to clean it, right? The bottom
Mm.
of the fish tank. And what happens by whatever means that you do it, and there are many tools out there. First, as you going through the pebbles, it gets cloudy, right? It
Mm.
gets muddy in some cases, it gets dirty to then go back to the filtering and getting all those the 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 debris of a group of fish living in a small aquarium. But I think life is like this. We have to have courage to go through, if not forever, but for a small period of time, to unravel, to be chaotic, to be dirty, if you
Mm.
will, so that we can, with curiosity and intention, start to address. And in the case of the aquarium, we clean the water, we remove the debris. But in case of us, what is it that we are hiding behind those lies, right? Or those masks? What do we need to do? And why do we have so much pain in some cases? Have the courage to ask ourselves, is it even proportionate, my response, to what's triggering the pain points, for example?
Mm.
But that sense of love and curiosity, it's almost like a childlike, if you will, because we're talking about how early in our real immortal journey as a spirit, how early, how in the very beginning we still are. Therefore it's okay to be childlike and deal with all that we're going through with that sense of a pioneer or curiosity, or looking at it with the notion of what is the impact of my decisions, right?
Yeah. And one of the things that Shona Giangelis says is exactly that, that in
Mm-hmm.
order for us to mature
Mm-hmm.
psychologically and
Mm-hmm.
spiritually, is this growing up of taking
Mm-hmm.
responsibility. We need to be able to see ourselves as we are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that at least maybe I can't say not everybody, but a lot of people will have
Yeah.
been affected by perhaps many lives of
Yeah.
the teachings of the church,
Yes.
where if you lied, you're going to hell. So you don't want anybody to know that, because
Yes.
maybe then God won't even know that either.
So
I don't
so
know.
so it's part of our baggage, right? And
It is part of
this
our baggage.
conditioning that you have to do this, otherwise, right?
Then the punishment is super severe. You go to
Mm-hmm.
hell. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
not I don't believe in hell nowadays, but perhaps in the previous
Yeah.
life or
Yeah.
even early in this life, that might be something. Oh my gosh, this is really
Yeah.
serious. So
Yeah.
you start off by, instead of admitting and learning and taking responsibility and
Yeah.
making amends, of hiding things. And then that's not very healthy, because
Yeah.
eventually everything you go hiding, it's you've hidden it, although even if you forget, but it's there
Yeah.
under the carpet, as I say, in the shadow. And
Yeah.
things that are there will come out, will come
Yeah.
back out. You
Yeah.
can't hide forever. And that is like this constant well, threat that your hidden things might come out.
Yeah. 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 I can I keep thinking, right? And maybe I've been watching too many movies, but keep thinking that if I were to be a criminal, right, which I'm not, but if I were and I got away with something, I can only imagine what is the life of someone like that like, right? You just have to keep looking. What did I do? It's almost like a Isaac Asimov. There's a one of his books where he talks about this person that accidentally killed somebody, and it was an accident, so he could just call the police, right? Pa, 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 this has happened, come here, and you go through the judicial system, etc. But no, he can get away with it, and he goes into a spin. It's a really interesting little book, but he keeps cleaning and cleaning and he keeps cleaning and no, did I touch this? Clean it because of fingerprints. And he does this to a point that he actually gets caught because he could not extricate himself from the scene of the crime. But anyways, this is just pure fiction. But I thought it's interesting. Do we do that, right? Do
Mm.
we do we fall into this spinning fixed ideation that you're trying to get away and you try to protect this references again the idea of those defense mechanisms that are brilliantly created by your own ego, right? Our own ego as a healthy ego, it creates that to protect ourselves from others. And the problem is that we don't really know the how liberating it is to be truthful, to be frank, to embrace all of our immature type of activities, be it from a spiritual maturity, psychological maturity, or physical maturity, emotional maturity, right? But I wanted to, I know we're almost at the end of our time together here, but I want us to ask you, is there anything, and before we say goodbye, that we could perhaps celebrate as a as where we are in the history of humanity as a positive consequences? Is there anything that you can give it to me and to everybody who's with us right now?
Well, I was thinking, I mean, at this time in humanity, yes, we have time to be stopping and thinking about our existential crisis
Yeah.
because the technology has given us time. So we don't work, well, majority of us don't work at the same level that people in the 19th century used to work.
Yes.
Talking about the
Yes.
workers, where they work relentlessly like a piece of machinery, and you're exhausted, you eat, and you go back to work, and you're exhausted, and you eat, and you go back to work. You don't have time to stop and think about things. Nowadays, we all have, in general, obviously exceptions, more flexibility. We don't take so long to make our meals. We have more time. We have more time. What do we do with the extra time that technology has given us?
Yeah.
And that is the time that we could use exactly to be reflecting on our existential crisis and the meaning. What is the meaning of our life? Where do we want to go? What do we want to do? Do we want to change anything? Are we happy? Do we need to reconnect with nature, with other human beings? Because technology is great, and here we are on technology connecting across the Atlantic Ocean. But
Yes.
it's important to give a hug, to have
Yes.
human touch,
Yes.
because we are still in a body, a human body on this planet that requires human contact. So if we feel, social anxiety and start not wanting to contact other people, just think about where is a safe place where you can go and have contact with a friend, because this is really important as well. So it's finding the balance and using this wonderful opportunity, which is this complex time in which we can contribute positively and actively towards our own maturing and development. Because
Lovely.
progress is inevitable. We shall all progress whether we like it or not, but we can also contribute to our progress so that then we are moving in the direction of the progress. And it's, I think, just remembering the little things in life, the morning light, the stars, the moon, the mountains, the trees, the sea, the birds, the bees, the flowers, whatever makes it for you, if it's fall or if it's, springtime, just the wonder of God's creation, which is so beyond us and of which we are an important part, but we are not the creators, we are part.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before we leave, do you want to leave anything to us?
I,
Final
I,
words?
I ask permission. I just wanted to read a little message, if that's
Okay.
okay.
Of
Is that
course. Of
okay?
course.
So it's from the book Child of God, by the spiritual angels whom we've been referring to today, obviously through Divaldo Franco, her medium. And it's called Chapter 17, and it spoke to my heart. It might speak to yours, or it might speak to somebody you know, and then share it with them if that's useful. And it's called God Knows. There are different moments in your life when, engrossed in problems, you feel ignored and think nobody knows the troubles you bear. God knows. Sometimes you may feel desperately unhappy and totally deserted. Still, you will not be alone, for God knows. God knows the reason for your suffering. And when, in deep anxiety and abused and detracted by slander, you wish to abandon your task, put your faith in God and wait. God knows why this must be so. Surprised by a cruel fate which thwarts your most cherished plans, do not give up yourself to revolt nor despair, for God knows what is best for you. Crucified by a disease of unknown cause, bow your head in prayer and wait a little bit more, for God knows your disease is a path to future happiness. God knows everything. Just let yourself be guided by Him, seeking attunement to His mercy and wisdom. Do the best you can and leave a trace of light along the road you travel. For such is the attitude of the one who has put him or herself in the hands of God, and whom in God shall progress. God knows.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Anne. I really appreciate those words of Joanna De Angelis. And we have come to an end of our time today. Thank you. Thank you so much for you, Anne, and for all of you who are here, who have joined us this conversation today. And we do hope that this conversation has brought some inspiration for you to reflect upon your own journey. And until next time, stay curious. And I would say, stay loving, compassionate, and keep striving for the deeper truths within. But if this is the first time that you're here with us today, please note that the Psychology and Spirituality weekly talks are based on the works by Joanna De Angelis, and we do hope that you're able to perhaps expand a little bit of your own spirituality concepts by juxtaposing them in this psychological lens. Thank you so much, Anne, and thank you, sponsors, Mansell do Caminho, the United States Spiritist Federation, the International Spiritist Council, and AMI Brazil, who is the Brazilian arm of the Medical Spiritist Association. We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, thank you and stay tuned. Bye, everyone.